Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all having a good day. Yes, I am smiling today, yes. And very, very much looking forward to seeing Murky Meg's video later today, because the Sun newspaper have been shining a light on the sugars. I have warned for a long time that this would eventually happen. It was always inevitable. We all have our ups and downs in life, don't we? But when a whole, and it would appear orchestrated group, have a go at the future Queen of England and the future King. Now, last year I was going to write to Prince William to point out some stuff about the sugars. And with one thing and another, and life kind of, overtakes things, I never got the time because I wanted to write by hand, best handwriting and everything. But I don't need to now, because what I was going to do was to point out to him that the Sussex squad do appear organised and it's orchestrated in some manner, which is it's an oddity. I've never come across this before. But I think he knows now. So I don't need to write to him. Nobody does. But cast your mind back to last year, how frustrating it was for all of us. That it felt like nobody was looking. And I did assure a lot of you that the secret services, or the security services in the UK, they will have been watching, monitoring, especially particular squad members. They'll have been way ahead of the game. They just don't advertise what they're doing. So trust me, William has got everything at his disposal. And there will be strategies, I'm sure, put in place. So if I was one of the Sussex squad, in fact, it's interesting, isn't it? Is that why Pagan Trelawney suddenly stepped back? Is Sarah Data still tweeting? I don't know, but she had stepped back for a while, hadn't she? So it is interesting. And then Christopher Bouzy, I'm sure you'll all be delighted to know, was going absolutely crazy yesterday on Twitter. I mean crazy. Tweet, 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 tweet. How on earth could I have predicted that? Oh, I should get a pack of tarot cards out. Nah, I don't need to, because we've got fabulous tarot card readers in our community, who I'm going to be looking up to see where this goes, because God alone knows, literally the Lord God alone knows where this story's going to end. But it's not going to end well for a lot of people who've been doing just terrible and shocking things over on Twitter. Well, I guess that's their lookout, isn't it? There won't be a lot of sympathy coming from me, I can tell you, when the shit hits the fan. That it was only 2 days ago that I tweeted on my ex account, look at this, another article about Christopher Bouzy. It's Harry and Meghan's biggest mistake ever, having that guy on their Netflix show. That was only 2 days ago, and Christopher Bouzy himself has said that in the last 7 days, the Daily Mail have done 7 articles on him. I mean, I don't know, I'm not counting, but I guess because he takes it really personally, he is counting. He really doesn't like Tom Leonard. He's got it in for Tom Leonard. And he says that because Tom said in the article that Christopher Bouzy lives in New Jersey, he's implying that Tom has somehow doxed him. I mean, I don't know what the population of New Jersey is, but I would imagine it's fairly large. That's like sticking a pin in a map. I mean, and that he's put Bouzy's family at risk. I don't see how. And Bouzy, you've been out there, if you're out there, then you do have to consider these things. And you have been really the antagonist. And you have said a lot of very strong stuff. So, anybody who's out there, even us and our family, you do have to consider these things. However, whenever people say, people should stay offline, it's safer. Well, that's the same as saying never leave your house, just don't go outside, because that's actually a lot more dangerous, is to just go to the shops. I saw some stories in the Daily Mail recently. There was one where a guy just produced a knife on a train and stabbed a random stranger. I mean, these things do happen. So being on social media, yeah, you've got to consider these things. But also, I think people are forgetting that the real world can be a little scary sometimes. And, you know, we all have to walk around, make sure we've got our hand on our wallet, or handbag, you know, don't leave your keys lying around, stuff like that. So Bouzy kicking off, saying his family have been put in danger by Tom Leonard because he said he lived in New Jersey. That's interesting. Now, Bouzy's daughter, I'll just explain further about this. My video yesterday wasn't so much about how she earns a living. It was much more about the fact that the Daily Mail are letting Bouzy know that they are aware of his daughter's existence. And in order to be aware of her existence, you could not fail to notice her occupation. Now, his daughter, as I understand it, and I can't elaborate further because it's not my story to tell, she has a story to tell about Bouzy. I know this for a fact, and a lot of you know this, because she did reach out to Wally a couple of years ago. Oh God, was it 2 years ago? So, and back in those days, we were all so frustrated watching this happen, watching what Bouzy was doing and thinking, why won't the mainstream media or legacy media, why won't they act? Why won't they help? Why won't they get involved? Well, I suppose at that stage it was because they hadn't really ramped up against a member of the British royal family. Not Meghan and Harry, of course, but the others. Whereas, obviously, with this latest, with the Princess of Wales, that's been ramped up and they've capitalised on it. And so then, yes, now it becomes a story. Because what newspapers want is a story that's going to captivate the general population, or as many people as possible. Now, I looked on the Daily Mail Twitter feed, I follow them, and I was just sort of generally scanning down at their stories, and their stories maybe get 3,000 to 5,000 views a tweet. But when they did the Christopher Bouzy one, it was something like 130,000 views. So they realise there are clicks in this. Then other newspapers are going to realise there are clicks in this. People are interested. And so, in a manner of speaking, social media is becoming a barometer for them. Daily Mail, I've got a bone to pick with you, actually. I've been meaning to mention this in a few videos. I don't know if anyone else has noticed. They've changed the format of their comments section, and it takes forever to load. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes to load. Then it takes another 10 minutes to go to best rated, then another 10 minutes to go to worst rate. So I've stopped reading the comments. I've stopped looking. I much prefer the old format. Please change it back. And also, when I'm reading articles on the Daily Mail, just sometimes randomly, while I'm not even touching the screen, it just swipes forward and goes to a completely different story that I was not interested in. So get your HTML sorted and your CSS Daily Mail sorted out. I really enjoy reading the comments, but I'm not going to struggle for up to 30 minutes. So, yeah, the newspapers, and this is what they're tasting the blood in the water. They're looking to see if the general population are interested in a story, or if it's, is that just fell flat, let that drop, let that go. A bit like Instagram. I haven't looked this morning, but I looked last night, and Meghan still hadn't reached even 600,000 followers on her Instagram Orangenia Riviera thing, whatever it is she's doing. And I did see she's going to sell chicken feed. You may laugh at the idea of chicken feed, but I was looking up chicken feed a few years ago. In fact, I think it was during the COVID. And I discovered that the main countries that sell chicken feed, they're the powerful countries. Chicken feed is a very important thing, but I don't think she's selling it on that level. I think what she's planning on doing is, I don't know, roasting some nuts in her kitchen or something, and grinding them up to give to the chickens. I don't know. And there's been no update. So I've no way of knowing. So yeah, Bouzy, tweet. He is going absolutely crazy. So if any of you were on X. And then I was reading an article by Richard Eden, in the Daily Mail about Harry and Meghan not being trusted. I have to edit because somebody always rings or the doorbell goes. Right, Richard Eden did an article in the Daily Mail. It's an opinion piece, and it's all about how Harry and Meghan should beg forgiveness from Catherine, the Princess, Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales. But there was a really interesting little snippet, and it's these little nuggets that I love when I'm reading these articles. And basically, Richard did state what I assume is a fact. He said, how did Harry and Meghan find out about the Princess of Wales and her diagnosis was at the exact same time as all the other viewers on Friday. But the bit that astonished me was that apparently the journalists and media and TV had been told an hour and a half before. An hour and a half before. And none of them leaked it to Harry and Meghan. And the point that Richard Eden was making is that the media and the press and the journalists are far more trusted than Harry and Meghan. Oh, ouch, burn. And Bouzy's out there making points like, he says, where was all this outrage when Meghan was getting all this over her babies? You know, so I mean, the babies thing he's talking about, like the Birkenhead thing I did a few days ago. He's talking about that moon bumps and stuff. But she didn't have babies when she was in the UK. She had one. The second one came later. But I mean, the mainstream media, now, I don't recall them ever sort of printing anything about conspiracy theories about Meghan and her pregnancy. Whereas this latest with Princess of Wales, lots of media, all legacy media, all mainstream media have been printing. So when he says, oh, look at the comparison, basically Meghan was protected by the palace. There were no mainstream stories, which of course is why all of us sort of sprouted up, because we're just general population scratching our heads going, did anyone else notice there's something weird going on there? Is there something funny? Is it just me? You know, because that's what people are going to do when they see something obvious. Can you imagine if the king, right? This is a really silly comparison, but can you imagine if King Charles turned up at an event with a paper bag on his head and a couple of eye holes, and we're all expected to not say a word? Legacy media just don't mention it, and everybody's just there, oh yes, didn't the king look lovely? Wasn't the king marvellous? Doesn't the king look healthy? And nobody's actually allowed to say, the dude's got a paper bag on his head, we're not even sure it's the king. And yet, with other members of the royal family, whoop, 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 you know, we're not allowed to say a thing. I mean, some people bring it on themselves, don't they? They really do. I might do that, go down the supermarket with a paper bag on my head. Just dead serious. Just to see the reaction. I mean, it's ludicrous, isn't it? And I think that's why on the internet people sort of feel free, so let's talk about whatever, you know, something looks a bit strange in the royal family, something doesn't add up. As far as the Photoshop of the Princess of Wales, you know, I would never even have noticed any of that. They were like little alterations to make something. They weren't like major things, were they? Oh dearie me. Anyway, so yeah, the Richard Eden thing, I thought that was an important point to add before I was so very rudely interrupted. Right. We've got a storm here at the moment, which apparently is going to set in until Monday, but I'm not going to let it bring down my mood, because I am really enjoying seeing roasted sugar. As always, look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions below.